The DNA found at Meyiwa's murder scene takes center stage in court.
Those reference samples were excluded as the donors of the DNA that was found on the swab and also on the head.
The taps are still dry for some Joburg residents, and social media users unmask a bogus TikTok doctor.
Guys, I get paid to be a doctor, not to be on TikTok. I'm on TikTok because I want to, not because ngolala.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mathapelo Moloi. It's great to have you with us.
This is Eyewitness News.
We begin at the courts where the Senzo Meyiwa trial has heard that DNA evidence failed to conclusively link any of the 5 men in the dock to the murder scene where the soccer star was killed. Senior forensic analyst Meyiwa Mathapelo took to the stand for a second day today, testifying on DNA evidence found at the Khumalo residence following the fatal shooting. The Bafana Bafana captain was shot at the home of his girlfriend Singakeli Khumalo in 2014. While 5 men are on trial for the murder, Mathapelo says their DNA could not be matched to the swabs from the scene. Nokukanya Mtambo was in court.
Now, the first of the witnesses that we heard from today, a senior forensic analyst, Meyiwa Mathapelo, has told the court that the DNA evidence collected from the crime scene where Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed in October 2014 doesn't conclusively place any of the 5 accused at the crime scene. Now, he says this is a finding that he made after comparing the reference samples taken from the accused to those swabbed from the crime scene. And that includes that infamous hat that we're told was worn by one of the 2 alleged intruders who accosted the people inside the Khumalo house. Now, State Prosecutor Advocate George Baloi tried to poke holes in the DNA evidence, looking to find any grey areas, asking specifically if it was possible for the accused to have been at the scene but not necessarily touch anything. Now, while Captain Mathapelo concedes that this is a possibility, he says that's not a scenario he wishes to delve too much into. Now, the second of the witnesses was Hendrik Mulder, the HR manager at Sibanye Gold. This is where accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, worked at the time of the crime. Now, he says there was no record that Ntanzi was ever at the workplace on the 26th of October, despite Ntanzi initially telling police that he was at work on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. The employee records that were submitted by Mulder onto the record in court show that the last time that Ntanzi was ever at work was the day before the murder on the 25th of October, and the next time he returned was on the 2nd of November. During that 5-day period or so, he was never seen on the premises of Sibanye near Coltonville.
Parliament is defending an almost 70% salary hike for its secretary, Xolile George, a year into the job, saying it's been a thorough and objective process. Well, this comes after the Sunday Times lifted the lid on the behind-the-scenes wrangling to hike George's salary to 4.4 million rand when he initially accepted an offer in May last year of 2.6 million rand. Parliament's presiding officers insist they did not act in secret. However, the DA is crying foul. The party's chief whip, Siviwe Kwahobe, says they're demanding George's salary hike be investigated.
If Parliament is the one that cannot practice transparency and accountability, then how can we expect it to do its job of holding government to account?
Let's take you further afield now. As the Israel-Hamas conflict rages on with hundreds of people killed, the United Nations has called for an immediate end to the attacks on civilians. Well, this as Hamas rockets continue to hit residential buildings in Israeli towns, prompting counter-strikes which have killed hundreds of Palestinians. Amid the fierce fighting, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for the protection of civilians.
In the face of these unprecedented attacks, Israeli airstrikes have pounded Gaza. I'm deeply alarmed by reports of over 500 Palestinians, including women and children, killed in Gaza and over 3,000 injured. Unfortunately, these numbers are rising by the minute as Israeli operations continue. While I recognize Israel's legitimate security concerns, I also remind Israel that military operations must be conducted in strict accordance with international humanitarian law. Civilians must be respected and protected at all times. Civilian infrastructure must never be a target.
Meanwhile, major airlines have now suspended flights in and out of Israel following Hamas's surprise attack on the country over the weekend. Israel has advised any planes flying into that country should carry extra fuel on board as a precaution, and also urging airlines to review current security and threat information. Back home now, Joburg Water has blamed the city's current water supply challenges on the recent abnormally high consumption by residents. Parts of the municipality have been experiencing low water pressure, while in other areas taps are completely dry. The entity says demand drastically increased during a time when Rand Water's pumping stations are undergoing operational issues. Alfara Moshwana has more on that.
Joburg residents will have to brace themselves for more issues in the supply of water. As Joburg Water says, there are no signs that show that its water systems will recover anytime soon. The entity has pointed out that even if levels at reservoirs increase, water consumption is extremely high. Joburg Water has now been left no choice but to tighten its water restrictions. And in some areas, the municipality has introduced water shifting, which is taking water from an area that is not experiencing water issues so that they can fill a reservoir that is empty. For Eyewitness News, I'm Alfa Ramushwana, Johannesburg.
I am the youngest owner of a pharmaceutical brand in the country at the age of 24.
And the net is closing in on so-called Dr. Matthew Lani, with the Gauteng Health Department now having opened a criminal case against him. The well-known influencer, who styles himself as a doctor on social media, found himself in hot water this week after Wits University publicly refuted his claims that he had graduated from the institution. While the Health Professions Council of South Africa came forward, also saying he was not registered on its database. Lani has also claimed that his real name is Sanele Zingelwa, which has also now emerged. It's in fact the name of a second-year medical intern at Tembisa Provincial Tertiary Hospital. The Health Department's Mudaletale Mutiba.
The opening of the criminal case against Lani is in line with the Health Professions Act, which states that practicing whilst not registered with the Health Professions Council of South Africa is a criminal offence, and that any person who uses any name, title, description or symbol indicating or calculated to lead persons to infer that he or she is the holder of any qualification of which they are not shall be guilty of an offence.
And that is all we have for you today. Again, please remember to like, share and subscribe.
Eyewitness News, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, log on to ewn.co.za or ewn.mobi.